Good evening, everybody. You may have noticed, even though I was hoping some of my work stuff would be um, kind of balanced out now, I'm still starting a bit later. And that's because the work stuff hasn't quite turned out the way I wanted it to. But we are here, and we're going to be enjoying some Phantom Brigade. I wanted to take a second here just to make sure that all of my settings are where they should be, which they are. So let's hop in. I may have mistook the holidays. Hang on, Phantom Brigade can load in the background, but please enjoy the fine soundtrack. And okay, yeah, so 7th. Excuse me. So the state of the stream, I really do try and take holidays when I can. Probably gonna have to sneeze again. Okay. So the overall plan, where I can, I try to take the holidays, like the Canadian public holidays. And if I don't, I go crazy and I wind up missing broadcasts unexpectedly. So the way things are going, Friday is a holiday, Monday is a holiday. I think I've prepped people for Monday. I haven't prepped them all that well for Friday. And of course, Book of Hours is out now, so I may wind up playing something on Friday anyway. But this may be the last stream for basically a week. So if you are wondering where I am, that's where I am. What else? Well, we can introduce Phantom Brigade, especially because there's a little bit of news behind the developer, or for the developer behind this game. So I have been playing Phantom Brigade since it released into early access on the Epic Store, and it was Brace Yourself who gave me the key for that in order to basically do this kind of coverage. And I'm sure, as all of you know, especially for those of you who watch regularly, if you're given a key for promotional purposes, it's important to disclose that, which is what I'm doing here. I'm a tremendous fan of Phantom Brigade, and I'm a big fan of the developer, Brace Yourself Games, who are a Canadian developer. They're based in Vancouver, but as always, you want to get that disclosure out of the way. I'm not paid for it. I'm not. Oh, well, I was paid to do a promotional video for them, but that's was on the Steam page. And then one thing I did kind of want to draw to your attention, there's a number of games that not only have they recently released, but just a number of games that they've put out over time. And I thought maybe it would be a good idea just to do a recap. So in terms of the released PC games that they've put out, there is Crypt of the Necrodancer and its DLC. There is Industries of Titan and Phantom Brigade now, and they have a publishing arm. So under their publishing arm, they also have Godless, which is quite a neat little auto-battler, and it's something I would like to get back into reasonably soon. The challenge here, of course, is that there are lots of things to play. All of them Brace Yourself games, as a matter of fact. But they also have a couple of other things that are coming up. So under their publishing arm, they will also be releasing Cobalt Core and Super Raft Boat Together, which, so far as I can tell, do not yet have kind of early access games that you can play. I feel like I mentioned Industries of Titan, but if I didn't, that was one that was developed and released under Brace Yourself. Of course, there are possibilities. There's other stuff that may be coming down the pike that we don't know about, but in terms of things that are in development that we are aware of, there is Rift of the Necrodancer. And then there was an announcement that came out on the 3rd, which is that Zen Studios is going to be releasing a Crypt of the Necrodancer pinball. So I believe that's coming onto Pinball FX on April the 13th. And I'll be honest with you, like I've enjoyed a couple of virtual pinball tables. The Pinball FX ones actually seem really interesting because they've pretty much embraced the fact that it's in a virtual environment. So they are trying to, create the feeling of a physical pinball machine, but certainly they don't feel limited to sort of replicate things that already exist. They are very much their own. They are very much their own kinds of tables. And honestly, it looks very interesting. I must confess that I've not played Pinball FX I've probably played it, but I've not played it to any great length, nor do I remember it all that well. But I will be honest with you, Crypt of the Necrodancer Pinball sounds like the sort of thing I want to try. And the table actually looks really interesting. So for those of you who like to try weird and wonderful new things, I would recommend keeping an eye on that. That is going to be coming out in a week, it looks like. Well, week and a day. Finally, the last of the things that I should have mentioned in terms of Brace Yourself games is Cadence of Hyrule, which I kind of like a Switch, I won't lie. I've finally gotten into console gaming, but the challenge is it feels like probably there's going to be a replacement for the Switch. Like, I don't know what the timeline is. Nintendo seems to kind of march to the beat of its own drum, which I love about it. But I have no idea whether or not it's a good idea to get into something like a Switch now, only to find out that it's being replaced. Because obviously a console is not an inexpensive thing, and certainly there are other things that I can put the money towards. But just being able to play things like Breath of the Wild or Cadence of Hyrule or so many of these things that Smash Brothers for that matter. I almost never play fighting games, but it would be neat to learn how to play Smash Brothers for very specific reasons of revenge, might I add. We'll see. It's one of those things I can sort of figure out on my own. But as you can see, Brace Yourself is not just an interesting developer because of the quality of games that they make, but the diversity of games that they make. And I think probably that is also a reflection of the diversity of its workforce. There's a lot of amazingly talented people who I've had the pleasure of being introduced to. But now, having been given some time in terms of just sort of following this developer as a fan, people seem to be moving into other things. So, for instance, Marlon, who is currently sort of heading up Rift of the Necrodancer, I knew him by reputation in the local game dev community here in Ottawa, but I knew him better as a video editor. And I'm sure I don't know exactly what he does or doesn't do with regards to that. I mean, certainly there's lots of talented editors at Brace Yourself, as you can see by the quality of their promotional material. But obviously that's not a kind of career curve that you would normally expect. Then again, I think most people who wind up as sort of creative leads tend not to follow traditional paths. And on top of that, you'll see, Tetragon Works, who started Phantom Brigade and sort of were bought by Brace Yourself and are now fully part of it. There are people from that who did some work on Industries of Titan, and likewise, I believe some Industries of Titan people helped out with this game. So, in addition to the fact that you have people moving up into different roles, and you have people, even within projects, I seem to recall Nikita went from a level designer to having a more senior design role, at least in title. Again, I apologize. I don't keep it would be there's a certain degree of being a fan and admiring the people in a company, and then there's a border that you cross where you don't want to be keeping specific tabs on everybody's jobs and where they are. So I don't have a comprehensive database of everybody at Brace Yourself. That's in the mail. But yeah, it's been fun to follow this game as an early access follower, and of course, this is a game that seems to have met with quite a bit of success, and so hopefully that will mean that it gets some further support down the road. Although it's a very enjoyable game in its own right. And of course, this lovely music that you're hearing is from contractor Riley Koenig, who is actually, if you've checked out his YouTube channel, has been releasing some piano versions of the overworld music. They're very nice, and he's got this nice little visualization for it. So, anyways, obviously I'm ranting on, but they're a developer I am very fond of, and, you know, if I were a better person, I would, you know, try and emulate the, you know, the niceness and the talent that they have. But I am mortal, and I am prone to error, so I will probably try to focus on being a less terrible system shock than a copy of Mr. Clark or any of the fine people at Brace Yourself. Let's get into Phantom Brigade. Okay, so we are currently celebrating. I suspect these will handle themselves. If not, we'll pick up some extras. Now, it seems to me if we're in this province, probably moving into the closest neighbor, it makes the most sense. If I wanted to try and go for some higher level challenges, I could sort of go deep into the map. Oh, is it really 10? Yeah. There is something kind of tempting to go to a considerably higher level. This one says 7 or higher. However, the capital city, I believe at 900, that is probably more than a 7+. Yeah, I am kind of curious as to whether or not it would be a good idea for me to just try and go to the highest level province that I can. I do have, in honor of the announcement, I had something kind of funny I wanted to try, but I'm not 100% sure whether or not I'm going to be able to pull it off with the team that I have. So we'll start off with just a good old-fashioned wait. We'll get our celebration finished, and then we'll see what we can do in the overworld. So we may be able to chase down the repair convoy. There's a few things going on here. Gear up. At your order, the base flies into action and prepares for a fight. An engineer sprints towards the bay to check on the guns, passing a scout, relaying combat data through the radio. There's shouting everywhere. At your sight, someone's leg bounces up and down, boot heel tapping on the grate. You feel your eyes on you, awaiting your command. Sorry, your eyes on you. You feel eyes on you, awaiting your command. Okay, let's do a quick check on... I think I seem to recall that I skipped over a few items, so we're going to do sort of an audit of our capabilities here. I did replace this burst with a bigger one. The problem here is this had a concussive payload and it's fused to the weapon, so I'm not like... basically, I have to pick. Do I want the lower level, higher concussion, or do I want the more damaging rifle? Generally, I think it's better. I have a very bad habit of sticking with items that have sort of lost their usefulness, or not lost their use, but you know, basically there are better options available for me. The railgun repeater is an interesting one, although again it may count better as a shotgun. But yeah, I think I'm okay with where we're sitting for weaponry for this unit right now. As always, we want to take a quick look and see. So there's a few things that I want to do here. So I've got an Elbrus torso. It's already pretty good, and largely it's because of this hollow plate. So what I want to be looking for here would be either the heat generation or the power. But honestly, at this point, I think I'm going to skip over that. It looks like we might have actually already gone through our weaponry, so I'll make this a quick one. So the Manticore. The question is always, can we make this thing faster? Also, there's a side of me that wonders, is there a way that I can get more than one of those heavy cannons running? Maybe something for me to test in the future. Okay, so we can get a marginal speed improvement by giving it skinnier legs. This is due to the higher level generator. Interesting. I'll keep the heavy legs, just because, again, we don't really need to be going that much faster, but it's good to know I have that as an option. Now, this light arm, I mean, we get a little bit faster on it. But we give up some heat dissipation. If I were to replace this with the railgun repeater, so we give up concussion, it's heavier. Similar curve. But if I want to go for a shotgun, clearly the shred is the better of the options. I also need to keep in mind I'm actually in danger of losing my heavy status, so if I'm going to be putting parts on, I need to make sure that I don't lose that classification. Yeah, we'll live with this setup. So I'm not going to be scrapping items in the inventory for a while. That's going to be... Olaf, great to see you. How you doing, my friend? Oh, this counts as very easy. All right, this will be good. Commander, the base is circled around to the perimeter. We're ready to pick the squad up if needed. The enemy will hold the site if you do so. Rebel unit sighted, requesting immediate reinforcements. Let's make this quick. Okay, so actually I remember this map. This was one where we had that really amazing shot where we fired something over the head of an enemy unit. I like that one a lot. Okay, so the enemy's got a Vulcan, so I want to be careful with that. It's 878 in terms of power. We've got another mech with a shotgun, so unless it's a particularly long-ranged one, we don't have too much to fear from it now. And then there is an enemy tank with an autocannon. So, the tank... Like, the tank's a prime target for the marksman rifle. However, I don't think... Oh, I do get to shoot it through the wall. Unfortunately, I am also targeted by the... Okay, well, you know what? It's not actually a problem. I am going to test something really quick. Okay, so... I am slightly worried about the time that I'm going to be holding there, because if this is wrong, then I'm going to get really, like, I'm going to be really badly hit by that particular weapon. But we'll make do. Now, one option that I have, in fact, it may be a good option. What is... Yeah, its arms are pretty strong, so... I was thinking maybe what I could do is move my own my own heavy gunner into position and open fire on that other one, but it's definitely going to take a while to get there. So one of my alternatives here is to open fire on the enemy unit on this side. The big question is going to be whether or not I can get in position in time. Okay, so that's the best I can do here just because of how the enemy unit's moving. Actually, they're too close now. All right, that makes it easier. So that's about as good as I'm gonna get with this unit. So the rest of the work at this point is going to be focusing on... So one thing I want to do is move my units in a way that advantages my own. So one thing I can do here is move my Herald. Oh, that's interesting. I appreciate that my assault rifle was so intense in terms of heat. I'm gonna have to review that. Okay.